So how do we reset our IT infrastructure of today? Well, I propose that cloud computing may be your answer. Now, it's going to be very dependent on what type of cloud you implement, but we'll get to that in just a moment. But let's take a little bit of a walk through history and kind of see what has occurred in our environments and how it's kind of led up to this ability of ours to reset our IT infrastructure with cloud. So let's start in the late 80s and early 1990s, located there on your screen in the upper left-hand corner. Here we started with servers and desktops, and many of you remember the days when you reinstalled your desktop every month, whether it needed it or not, right? Your Windows for Workgroups or Windows 95 or Windows Millennium or Me always had quirks and problems with it, and DLLs when you loaded new software didn't quite work right, and so really needed to reset those desktops, and often even our servers just re-image them to the core image so that we get better performance out of them. And so many of us took and used secondary hard drives, right, for our data and put our OS on a primary hard drive. Well, of course, we've seen the evolution of the computers. Now, operating systems automatically have a rollback functionality built within them. But we notice here as we moved into the 1990s, in the lower left-hand side of the screen, that we started to introduce the concept of virtualization. Now, virtualization definitely helped us reduce our physical servers, no doubt about it. But it didn't necessarily solve a lot of our problems. There wasn't a lot of automation, although we could easily reset a server now by simply reinstalling another VM, right? Take that VM down and put another one in its place. And so we were able to do that. But what we found with virtualization was it just ended up with an increase in license cost, and our staffing costs in most cases didn't go down because we missed some of the core components that, quite frankly, over the years have been nice to have items, right? Because we get these budgets to build our IT systems and they're not adequate enough, or they're not, we don't have the time to do it. And so we forget simple things like high availability and disaster recovery, operational management, for example, here illustrated in the middle of the screen, and enhanced security. I remember years ago that security was a nice add-on to the current project. It can't be an add-on. It's got to be in the forefront. And it is, I think, in most people's minds today. And so how did this impact our users? Well, what we ended up doing, and many of you that may be listening to this already have these experiences where we have large IT infrastructures that are very silo-based. They've been built from grassroots. And that's okay, but managing all of those becomes a real challenge. And so what do we have to do? We have to deal with these applications that have been developed over the last 15 and 20 years that have very low latency tolerance and many other challenges just in these environments. So how does cloud help us with all of that? Well, of course, it's dependent on the type of cloud that you buy. But if you purchase a cloud that has gone through any form of security validation that's associated with NIST 800-53, for example, FISMA, DICAP, FedRAMP, any of these type of security standards, you will find built into them many of those nice-to-haves of the past are now requirements of the future. And so cloud computing allows you as an individual to literally take your IT infrastructure today as it stands without having to go back and tell the stakeholders that, hey, I really shouldn't have done this 10 years ago, but this is where we're at. You don't have to do any of that today. Now all you have to do is say, I'm moving to the cloud. And when you move to the cloud, you can kind of clean up everything of the past and move it into an environment that is secure, operationally sound, and ready to perform.